joining us here on the program. This is our live stream here on Facebook, live on YouTube, perhaps later on YouTube, perhaps later just in audio form as a podcast. My name is Rod Morgan. This is the Morgan Podcasting Network. All of the things that we do here that you can find on the various platforms out there are brought to us because of our executive producer, James Thomas Jamriska, better known as Jimmy Jam on this podcast. He brought us this wonderful Riverside platform that we are streaming on right now. Jimmy, hello.
Hello, Rod. I'm very excited to be here. As always, I can't wait to talk about the terrific week I had in the NFL.
The terrific week in the NFL, indeed. We got to bring in our handicapper, Josh Williams. Josh, give us your record last week. We were 2-1, 2 straight weeks. How did we do last week? Are we staying hot?
No. I told you that last week was probably my least favorite card of the year, probably maybe of the last couple years. I did not disappoint. I went 0-3 against the spread. I did come down to the last play of the game on the Steelers-Cowboys game. I'm sure Chris has something to say about that. But yeah, we need to get back on track. I may be distracted here because I have some potentially big futures going on in two other sports, Rod, MLB and WNBA. I know you know nothing of those two sports. So
now listen, don't you attack my WNBA bona fides, all right? I'm starting to try to garner some of those. But baseball, listen, I'm excited that they still have a postseason that people care about. That's wonderful. Good for baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of another sport that's not the NFL, let's dispatch with this right now. I can see my longtime friend, the man who's joined me on so many different podcasts here on the Morgan Podcasting Network. He is a bon vivant. He will talk about anything we need him to talk about, except NFL apparently right now. Chris, what do you want to most talk about as we've opened the podcast?
I live in Bloomington, Rod. I'm a fan, Rod. IU football, Rod.
What?
6-0. Football.
The one they play with it's got the laces on it? That one?
6-0. First team in the NCAA to be bowl eligible. We are undefeated. Football, Rod. I am wearing my 1945 undefeated season jersey as homage to what IU is able to accomplish right now. It is fun to be down here in Bloomington, Rod.
Now, listen, I'm glad that we are doing this across the internet because the odor coming off of that jersey, being that that's not actually a throwback jersey, that literally came from that time. You have friends that provided you with that jersey, Chris. I'm glad that you were in that room by yourself because that has to have an odor about it.
It's legendary, Rod. That's what this is. It's legendary. All right.
Nice. I saw you searching. You're like, what am I going to go with? And you went with legendary. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that. There were many things we could talk about last week, game-wise. Jimmy, I'm going to go to you, though, for the most important thing that our listeners tune in for, right? I think what they really like here on this podcast is the friendly, I'm saying in air quotes, competition amongst all of us because we don't talk trash at all when it comes to who's winning and losing these things. So, Jimmy, why don't you update us on the NFL Wins League totals, if you would, please?
I just want to say how great I'm doing in the NFL Wins League. I chose the Cleveland Browns with my number one pick. The Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson didn't want to win the game last week. His coach hates him, but has to start him. But I still picked them number one, and they've got one win. I am in second place right now, Rod, with 21 victories. How amazing is that for someone who picked such a bad team? Chris King, 14 wins. Not doing too good there, Chris. Could be doing a lot better in fourth place there. You could be Rod, who's got 19 wins, picked the Falcons number one, which, if you remember correctly, was controversial at the time, but it's the most wins of any team Rod has, so congratulations there.
So listen, apparently I did get the number one team on my board, right? My board, the team that was going to provide me the most wins. I did it right? You can't dispute that pick.
Rod's also the only one who correctly picked his final team. The Titans have one win, so good job with that. A lot of us picked one-win teams that are higher. Williams is so good, though, Rod, at everything he does. He waited to the last pick in the draft to select the undefeated, reigning, defending, week champion Minnesota Vikings. So Williams has 24 wins. He's beaten me by 3, but Williams, excellent work, bud.
That's the only thing that went right last week for me was the wins league, and I was worried about that because every single one of my teams that played on Sunday was either a road team or a neutral team. Yeah, that ended up being all right. If you guys are going to gain any ground on me, this is the week to do it. I got 3 teams on a bye, so I'm a little worried here about this upcoming week.
Listen, I'm not supposed to gain ground on you, all right? I'm making jokes about what toys that guys are playing with when they're kids, right? Like I'm referencing TV shows and movies nobody's ever seen before. Like I'm not supposed to beat you at the Wins League. I just want to make sure I'm beating Chris, and I love the fact that I'm beating Chris by what was it, Jim? You say I'm beating by 5 whole wins, 19
Oh
to
yeah,
14?
it's well, and Rod, you got to look. Chris likes to count, but he can't count too high. So Chris's wins. This is his first round, second round picks here. 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins, and then we got to go back. It's a little high. 1 win, 1 win, 1 win, 3 wins, 2 wins. Chris, we love you.
Love it.
It's early in the season. It's early in the season. We got time.
Listen, the positivity. The positivity
Yeah.
even spills over into the Wins League.
Look, even the one pick that I have been dreading, the Jets, have made the right decisions to move forward, and we are going to improve, and the Jets are going to start winning. So, I see my luck starting to turn around.
And the last thing I want to say here on the wins pool is, Williams, you were all excited about Patriots v. Dolphins. You should be ashamed of yourself for even counting that victory. You should be ashamed of yourself for even counting that victory. That game was putrid, nasty, and the Dolphins only pulled it out in the very end.
It was, and I love ugly so much that we're going to talk Patriots again later on in this podcast.
Look at you. Look at you. Why don't we just talk Patriots now? Let's just go right now. Let's just get into the picks. Let's do it. Wait, no, we can't. Because the NFL served us up some more big, fat, juicy news out of nowhere. Robert Saleh relieved of his duties as the Jets head coach. It tends to happen when you go to London. London's like a bad thing. If you're a coach who's a little bit shaky, going to London, coming back from London, it could be the axe for you. Robert Saleh found it, so we got to see the great Goodfellas Joe Pesci meme. Robert Saleh walking into work, right, where Pesci walks into the empty room and the guys are there behind him. So he didn't actually die, though. So Robert Saleh is going to go away for a little while and still get paid quite handsomely by the New York Jets. And Albrecht, what's the guy's name who's taking over Williams? We go to you for all things coaching.
Yeah, Albrecht, and then they made an adjustment at the OC position too, bringing in Todd Downing. So, yeah, I mean,
he's just taking over play calling duties. Hackett's still the OC, but technically.
Oh, yeah. You get to do so. Yeah, it's like, Chris, you're the producer, but I'm going to produce everything.
It's
right?
like when the Bears, right? Didn't the Bears bring in a guy that they made call the plays from up in the booth because they were mad at some? Didn't that happen? Didn't the Bears do that with somebody? I feel like somebody already did this move.
Tried a lot of things, but hey, where's my credit on this, Rod? I'm the one that called this, like in our little group thread, that Saleh had to go. This is ridiculous, and well, I was right. I just like to be right once in a while.
You are. Listen, Jimmy, we will give you full credit here, but sniffing out that things may go bad for Robert Saleh with the Jets, where things always go bad with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, 40 years old, coming off of an injury, believing in every conspiracy theory out there. I don't exactly think you were like Sherlock Holmes to do some big time stuff here, Jim, but we will give you credit.
I picked Deshaun Watson to win MVP. I get the Robert Saleh. I get that, Rod.
All right, Williams, let me ask you this. Do you think this will actually make a difference for the Jets, right? Because, the season's frankly not over for them. This is a different kind of situation we've seen an interim coach step into. The Jets are 3-2. Nobody in the AFC has really solidified themselves. What do you think we're actually going to see out of this?
Yeah, it can't be much worse. It can't be much worse. So you gotta figure that Todd Downing is going to bring in some motion. He's going to bring in some play action. The defense is awesome, man. The Vikings, they did not do anything in the second half in the London game, and the reason they won that game was the pick 6 from Rodgers. So that defense is nasty, man. All you have to do is get some motion, get some play action, get a little better blocking. I do think that this team can turn it around.
Chris, I thought the first coach gone in the season might be Nick Sirianni down in Philadelphia. What are your thoughts that the first coach is actually Robert Saleh in New York?
I guess I'm not too surprised after how they played these first 5 weeks, especially when a lot of people were expecting a lot more, possible even like 1-2 losses at the most. So
Or
yeah, I
even
think
maybe no losses, like somebody on this podcast maybe sort of hinted at. Didn't actually make it an official pick, but hinted.
yeah, I wasn't going to throw him under the bus like that, Rod. But yes, Williams
He's
did go.
been taking shots at me left and right for weeks. I got no problem chucking him right under the bus right now.
Williams did go hard. Like, oh, they could go undefeated if they win this first week.
Hey, when someone gives you 150 to 1 odds, you take it.
Facts.
Listen, wait a minute. That's not 100% great advice. Don't bet anything that has
say,
150 to 1 odds,
yeah.
kids. Don't do that.
Oh man, they're back on the right track.
Chris, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. You were just talking about the Jets because I agree with you. It just seemed like he lost the team, right? Like maybe it was the right move there.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the offense was not living up to expectations, right? Like you have a future Hall of Famer at quarterback who still obviously has some talent left, but you're not getting what you need. So I think Williams is right. If you get a little bit better blocking, give him a half a second more in the pocket, I think you'll see a lot better stuff.
All right, Jimmy, I'm coming to you with the hard question then. Are we sure that Aaron Rodgers actually has anything left to give, or is Aaron Rodgers actually maybe the problem here because he wants an offense ran a certain way and maybe either A, that offense can't work against defenses now, or B, he's not good enough to run an offense like that anymore? Could that maybe be more the problem here?
Honestly, I think the line right now might be his problem. He's getting destroyed. I think he's fine. He's not as quick as he used to be. He's still got that arm. He's still got the brains in there, Rod. So you can't take it all out on Rodgers here, but he's getting destroyed. He came back from an ankle that apparently just grew back on the sideline in 10 seconds. So I think he's fine. Don't worry about him.
So you don't think a guy who skipped training camp and flirted with possibly running as a vice presidential candidate, you don't think that possibly he didn't do everything that he needed to do to maybe be 100% ready for this season? You don't think there's any possible way we can question Aaron Rodgers at all? That's what I'm hearing out of all three of you. I'm just trying to make sure I have it clear.
Okay,
I'm question Aaron Rodgers, Rod. No.
I'm going to call shenanigans on Jimmy's answer here, Rod. Okay, because we know Jimmy does not like Packers, and he does not like Aaron Rodgers because he owns Chicago. So why is Jimmy sticking up for Aaron Rodgers now? It's because Jimmy knows that when he says something on the podcast, the opposite comes true. So he is trying to put the jinx and this hex on Aaron Rodgers right now. So I'm calling shenanigans.
All right.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't know where you were going with that. Excellent work, Chris. I hope that's the case.
I cracked a smile there, brother, because I didn't know where you were going either. And then you rounded the curve, and I was like, oh, look at him. Look at my boy. All right. So here's the thing. Okay. We've been talking an awful lot about credit on this podcast. Frankly, having a podcast is what credit is all about. That's why you do it. So you can say there's audio proof of what I said. All right. I want to be on record as saying I think the Jets might have an Aaron Rodgers problem. All right. You guys can all be on record and still continue to defend him. And I can't impeach the resume. But I think that the 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers is a different guy. All right. I just think he's a different guy. I'm going to be on record saying maybe the Jets have an Aaron Rodgers problem. But let's move to Williams' picks for the week, where I'm sure more coaching decisions will come up. First game, those Patriots, those you got to watch them Patriots. Get your popcorn out because the Patriots are going to be lighting up the scoreboard. But wait, they actually did give us a reason to watch. Drake May, the next rookie, the last rookie, I guess, to play, coming in. Williams, what do you got for us on this game? Playing the Texans. Sorry, Texans. Sorry, I didn't give you a bunch of shine, Houston. Can you tell I can't stand the Texans?
Yeah, last week I hated the card. This week I absolutely love the card, and this might surprise you. I love the Patriots +7 this week against the Texans.
What?
Minus 115 on MGM. Let me run this down for you. This has went down to +6.5 on DK and FanDuel, so make sure you get it on MGM. Houston just does not look quite right here. Early down success rate, the Texans are 31st in the league, only ahead of the lowly Jimmy Browns. Sorry, Jimmy, you like Cleveland more than I did.
Wait a minute, we're doing that the rest of the year. The Jimmy Browns. They're no longer the Cleveland Browns. The Jimmy Browns.
Yeah, and so you know what that means? That means that the Patriots are ahead of the Texans in early down success rate. The Patriots are ahead of them in early down rushing success rate and early down passing success rate. When you look at this Texans offense, I thought they lost something in that Bears game when in week 2 when Mixon went out. You could just tell they didn't fully trust Akers back there. Now, I know their offense doesn't look quite right when you subtract Nico Collins from that picture. And in CJ Stroud's career, 33% of his yardage totals have come when he completed passes to Nico Collins. Stroud at home in his career, 9-2 straight up, but on the road, much more pedestrian, 4-5 straight up. And Chris, we have a luck rankings alert. Going into week 6, the Houston Texans are the luckiest team in the league. The Patriots are down at 26th. That 25 place gap has been good for a trend of 64% against the spread over the last 5 years when you back the quote unquote unlucky team there. And Stroud, when he's been a favorite of 3 points or more in his career, he's only 2-7 against the spread. I gotta say, Rod, I love the Drake. We got Drake May coming in here. We got just a bunch of unknown here, and everyone says you can't bring him in right now because of the Texans defense. You couldn't keep Brissett back there because Brissett can't move. And what did Drake May do well in college? He avoided pressure and he can scramble. It wouldn't surprise me if Drake May gets a couple first downs with his legs on Sunday. Give me the Patriots +7 versus Houston.
Williams, listen, do you mind if I reveal something here on the podcast to the listeners that it's about high time we alert them to? Can I tell them right now about the curse of the wide receiver that you and I have basically unleashed on the NFL and haven't told anybody about? Is it okay if I
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a very good chance that if Williams or I draft a wide receiver from your team or pick them up in free agency or make a trade for them and they get on our fantasy team, they will be hurt. Okay. I have Puku Nakura hurt. AJ Brown hurt for a while. Just got Nico Collins in a trade hurt. All right. So I apologize. And Williams, I know you were facing a similar fate on your squad. So we apologize to people out there that we were cursing their wide receivers.
Yeah. And I got one more thing here. Through the first 5 weeks of the NFL season, there have been 47 games decided by 7 points or less. That's the most such games through 5 weeks in NFL history. Scoring per game is at a 14-year low. Thank you, Nathaniel Buddy Hackett, for that. Dogs of 6 or more this season are 11-8, not against the spread, 11-8 straight up. Dogs of 6 or more, not against the spread. But so they're 16-2-1 against the spread. That's why we're back into the Patriots here. First time dogs of that amount have been over 500 straight up through 5 weeks since 1960. We have a scoring problem in this league. I think the Patriots have a really good underrated pass defense. That's why I like the Patriots +7 here on Sunday.
Did he just blame all of NFL scoring woes on Nathaniel Hackett? Like all of them, just on Hackett alone.
Sure.
Everybody's problems is now because of Hackett.
Chris Williams' stat there about how close the games have been, I think, speaks to the new NFL, right? Parity. We have installed rules to make parity rule in the NFL. It's really, really hard to repeat as champions. That's why I think the Chiefs should get a little more credit than they actually get. But he also put some doubt on the Houston Texans there, Chris, and I would really, really love it if you just continued bashing the Texans here. But your thoughts on this game?
So I'm a little bit torn, Rod, because I do want to bash the Texans, but not as much as I like bashing the Patriots, Rod.
That's true.
All right. So this is what I say. I don't think it's parity. I think what you're seeing is a balancing of the scales. The defenses have caught up to these offenses with the cover 2, if you want, or learning how to control the ball with the running game more, which is something the Patriots actually do better than the Texans already, is run the ball. And I think if they can do that and keep this a low scoring game, 7 points is a lot of points to cover. But Houston can definitely do that because they seem to be able to get it done. And whether or not it's been a close year, the Patriots aren't good, people. All right? They're just not. I don't care how much Drake May can run around and do things. They're just not good at all. The Patriots won't score but 12 points, so the Texans will cover this.
All right, Jimmy Jam, your thoughts on this game. I want to ask it to you this way. All right, Williams is confident. He sounds very, very confident in the Patriots here. He's confident in this week. What do you think that spells for the actual outcomes here? You've been Williams' longtime producer. When he's confident in his picks, what does that usually spell?
I really want to be funny here, but when he's this confident, he's usually right, and it really ticks me off, to tell you the absolute truth. Williams, seriously, why are you hurting everybody? Why you got to hurt the Texans, right? What did the Texans ever do to you?
Stop
Drake
that, Jimmy.
May
He
is
can
gonna-
hurt the Texans as much as he wants
Oh,
to.
yeah.
You stop
I
that.
want that. I don't know, Williams. I think you're going to be right, and it's really going to tick me off. That's it. I'm upset.
Look, like, what would we be thinking about this game if the Patriots, the last play there against the Dolphins, the heel was barely out. I mean, they could have easily beat the Dolphins, and then the Texans could have easily blown a 17-point lead against Buffalo. If those two outcomes switch, this line's probably 4.5, maybe down to 4. So I think we're getting 2.5, 3 points of value here. Plus, these fans for New England, all they've had to look forward to this year is when is Drake May going to play? I think you're going to see a super jazzed up crowd in Foxborough on Sunday. The Texans just snuck out a win at home. I think this could be a sleepy road spot for them.
All right, now listen, that's enough Patriots talk. Let's hope their fans aren't saying hate the Drake after that game is over. Speaking of fans, let's go to the number one Cowboy fanboy on this podcast. His team is coming up versus his secondary crush. Chris is going to be a little bit at odds with himself this week. We got those Detroit Lions, hosted by the Applebee's loving Dan Campbell, taking on the Jerry Jones led. How about them Cowboys? Williams, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so I'll give Chris credit. He was right with the Cowboys last week. It did come down to a 4th down and goal play from the 4-yard line, 20 seconds left.
We got to 20 points, though.
You got to 20 points. I did ask Chris, can you guys get to 20 points? Because if you can, then Justin Fields has no chance. And once again, Justin Fields has still not beat a team that has scored 20 points. He's now 0-23 in his career. So a good call by Chris there. But I'm going against Chris's team again this week. Give me Detroit -3. It's -112 on DK at Dallas. I love this spot for Detroit. I hate this spot for the Cowboys. Jared Goff, 13-3 against the spread in his last 16 road games. I don't think anybody would have guessed that. The Lions last 12 times coming off a bye, 10-2 against the spread with Dan Campbell. When Dak is a dog, he is 2-8 against the spread in his last 10 starts. The Lions will get center Frank Ragnow back. Like I said, the Lions are off a bye. Cowboys coming off a 90-minute lightning delay on Sunday Night Football on the road. Emotional win, a last-second win against your rival from the 70s, and you beat them in a Super Bowl in the 90s. Now they have to travel back. Plus, this is a massive revenge game for Dan Campbell from last year. Let me remind you what happened last year with this game. The refs messed the signaling of the O-lineman on the late touchdown call. Finally, Chris, the refs gave you a break. Finally, Dan Campbell lost his mind, and something tells me that biting kneecaps is going to bring that up in every practice this week. He's probably going to signal Dan Skinner like probably 20 times in this game. Offensive lineman eligible. The Cowboys will not be able to stop this Lions offense. Ben Johnson put on a clinic last Monday night. Now you give him 2 weeks to prepare against this banged up Cowboys defense. The Cowboys defense taking a massive step up. Yeah, they beat Justin Fields, who was absolutely garbage on that Sunday night game. Massive step up. You get Jared Goff, who did not have an incomplete pass in that game. And so I just love the Lions here -3 in Jerry World on Sunday.
Okay, so from a guy who talks about luck with teams and value, I'm going to go off the rails and talk about something that you can't quantify, and that's a Dallas Cowboys team that is currently 0-2 at home. That is going to It's like the perfect recipe for a raucous crowd and an amped up Dallas team. And I think this will be the most exciting game to watch this week. And I think Dallas comes out on top again in some late game heroics. And then you'll see the typical national media start to think about Dallas as being a Super Bowl team. So then we can go ahead and lose to some no-name Arizona Cardinal or somebody the following week. That seems to be how it goes for us Dallas fans.
Jimmy, how did the national media just become a villain to Chris there during that breakdown of the Cowboys Lions game? What just happened there?
Jimmy is pulling a rod right now and forgetting to hit the unmute button.
Yeah, James, we didn't get
I
any
was
of that.
very funny too. I was very funny when I said that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to produce a show here, Chris. But Chris is in that age bracket right now, Rod and Williams, where the national media is a villain to everyone
That's
about
true.
everything. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
That's true. Somehow Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones aren't Chris's enemy. The national media is Chris's enemy. I like how that works.
Gentlemen, I am a fan. I told you this.
You definitely are. Listen, your Cowboys they're coming through for you right now. I'm really looking forward to that game. Jimmy, I love your thoughts there. Williams, let's take a little break before we go to your final game because you reminded me of something else I wanted to talk about here. You talked about that lightning delay in the Sunday night football game, right? So we had probably the longest Sunday of NFL football we can all remember, right? Because we had the London game where if you wanted to get up and watch it, and it actually turned out to be a pretty good London game. Then you had the afternoon slate with some insanity, like always. And then we had a Sunday night football game that went late into the evening. Are we getting to maybe too much football? Jimmy, I think I know what Williams and Chris are going to say, so I'm going to come to you. Do you think maybe that's like, okay, guys, too much football? What do you think?
I don't know what you're saying there. There's never ever too much football. Why would you ever put that out in the ether, Rod? Like, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that we all have families and other things that we need to do every once in a while, and the NFL needs to stop trying to monopolize all of our time because the NFL is the only monoculture that exists in the United States these days. So all of us feel some sort of pressure to keep up with everything that happens in the NFL. And so when they have a game on in the morning, I feel like I have to watch it. And then there's games all through the afternoon. And then there's Red Zone that I can watch to keep up with every game. And then I can have one up on my computer screen if I need to. I mean, Chris, whatever happened to, we have games on Sunday and that's it. Maybe one Monday night game, maybe a Sunday night game, and you're watching what game you're watching and that's it. What happened? Aren't we getting too much football? Come on, Chris. You're from the old school where games weren't even on TV. You got to think we have too much.
So I'm going to agree with you partially because I don't like all the Thursday night games. Like, I don't like all the extra short rest. I liked it when it was a special thing over Thanksgiving weekend, so you can eat some turkey and watch some football like God intended, right? But I think with those Thursday games, it's a little bit too much. I don't mind the 2 Monday night games, give people a choice. I think that's okay. But Rod, it's one day out of the week, all right? That's a little bit different than what you get in the NBA or Major League Baseball, where you have to keep up almost on a nightly basis and you have things to watch. So, like, I kind of like it where it's just all one day and it's compact. And you're not wrong. The Red Zone is a great way to watch football on Sunday because you don't have commercials. You get to see all the exciting things. And that's like 8 hours of heavenly bliss. And why are you wanting to limit that, Rod?
And Chris taking an unwarranted shot at the NBA right there reminds me, make sure you tune in to me, Jimmy, and Chris breaking down the NBA weekly right here on the Morgan Podcasting Network. All right. So I just wanted to take that quick sojourn because I just think, yeah, you guys are right. Fine. Football, we love it. But I mean, let's not forget that they're encroaching on Christmas Day now, right? We had the weird Rio game, which was on a random night, right? We have the Black Friday game, which is happening now, right? Like, I mean, they're trying to take everything from us. Just wait till we have NFL games on every night and it's rollerball, and all we're doing in this country is betting on those games, and that's the only thing that we do. Williams, after my little diatribe there, take us to Buffalo at the New York Jets, where we have the possibility for one of my favorite things, the new coach bounce. Williams, and if you go against the new coach bounce here, oh, it's going to be for some good clips.
Yeah, I am going to take the Jets plus 2.5, minus 108 on FanDuel. I jumped in on this when they were at plus 3 earlier in the week, but those are all gone now. But I still think there's value here. I gotta say, it's our first wrong team favored game of the year, Rod. I think the wrong team is favored here. Not only do we have the new coach bump that you love, we more importantly have the step away, you crap OC, because we have a new OC now bumping Todd Downing taking over for our buddy Nathaniel Buddy Hackett. Look, Rodgers rallied the troops at the press conference. He went with the us against the world there. I like it. And Buffalo,
shocking out of Rodgers to go with us versus the world. He never paints that angle whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you take a look at Buffalo's offense, man. At these last 2 weeks, I don't know, man. That offense did not have Khalil Shakur. But I think Josh Allen had 9 completions last week, and now he steps up in class going up against an even better pass defense. And he probably should not have even come back in that game with that concussion that he had, and somehow they called it a sprained ankle. I was like, that didn't look like a sprained ankle to me. But I just think that everything is rolling here for the Jets to pick up a huge win. I always want to back a team that's focused. This team in practice this week is going to be extremely focused. They have to protect their home field advantage here. If they get this win, they're in first place in the AFC East. Considering how poorly they've played this year, I mean, I think this is going to start a winning streak for the Jets.
Jimmy Jam, new coach bounce. Are you as excited about it as I am?
I am a lot, because they're going to win. The Jets are going to win because they have to with this new coach. It's going to be such a great, and they may even win big. And if they win big, watch out for New York, because they're going to be so excited. And then the fall, Chris, the fall will be even so much more great.
Isn't that the real American dream, to watch somebody rise up only then to fall, right? And then possibly rise up again in the redemption arc. So like, that's the American story. I'm glad that Williams brought up like the us against the world type of mentality that the Jets have, because I really almost think it's the opposite when you're talking about Buffalo, because it's really Josh Allen versus everybody, because that's the only guy for Buffalo that is doing anything right now. It's literally him versus every team. His leading receiver right now is Kincaid, all right, with 15 catches. That's his leading receiver on his team. And this guy is still able to somehow win 3 games already this year, hasn't thrown an interception yet. But I guess I agree. I do think the Jets are going to win, because it's almost impossible to beat that double new coach bounce, right?
Look how double new coach. I didn't even think about that. That's a good call by you, Chris. Williams, we're about to close up shop here. Do you have anything to wrap up on this game? Do you have a double back we need to do? Is there a nugget that got left on the cutting room floor? What do we got?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes with this game. I mean, what gets lost in how bad Zach Taylor was at coaching last week, what Sean McDermott did in that Houston game might have been even worse. From his own 3 tie game, he took 11 seconds off the clock and had Josh Allen just chuck it down the field from your own 3. You need to run the ball there, make Houston take timeouts so that they can't complete a pass once they get the ball back. And Kymie Fairbairn nails a 59-yard field goal. I don't know what Sean McDermott was doing there. It's like we have these coaches who are just ultra ridiculously crazy, and then the super, super conservative Zach Taylor, who gets the ball back from his defense on the 36-yard line and decides to run it up the middle 3 times. Like, you have Joe Burrow on your team. You just single-handedly ruined my future MVP ticket on Joe Burrow 28-1. And actually, Joe Burrow played so good that his odds went down. He's down to like 15-1 now. Imagine if Cincinnati would have won that game. He'd probably be under 10-1 right now. But you got Zach Taylor. I'm sorry, I don't want to overreact. Zach Taylor's got to go. He needs to go. Okay? He needs to get like Robert Saleh and get out of there, because he is holding Cincinnati back. And these coaches, why can't we have a happy medium? Why can't we have a happy medium of like 75% aggressive, 25% conservative? Sean McDermott lost his mind. Zach Taylor, way, 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 way too conservative when you have the best player in football this year. I still say Joe Burrow has been playing better than anybody so far this year. These coaches need to get a clue, Rod.
Jimmy Jam, is that the best Williams circle back we've possibly ever had on the podcast right there?
I think that might be. Williams, you doing okay? You know, Zach Taylor has a family. You realize that, right?
He stinks. I got to call out
Went
bad
to the Super
coaching.
Bowl a couple years ago.
On the back of Joe Burrow and Lou Amaruno. Get Zach Taylor out of there.
All right, Chris, I'm going to ask you the final question of the week. All right. And you love it when I ask you these off the wall questions. And here it comes. All right. Do you think there's a lot of football podcasts out there that are previewing the upcoming NFL week, dropping 3 different Buddy Hackett references during the course of upcoming NFL games? How many? How many? Are we the only one, or do you think there's other out there?
Listen, if there is another one out there, I need to listen to that podcast. So let me know.
There we go. I love it. This is what you come to us for, folks. Analogies, things that you didn't want to think of, things that once you heard from us, you're like, you know what? That is actually funny out of those guys. That's what we do. Come back next week, right around this time. Williams will have more games for you. Chris and Jimmy and me will have more fun for you. And speaking of me, Chris and Jimmy having more fun for you, we are going to take a quick little 10-second break here. And then we're going to come back, and Jimmy and I and Chris are going to talk about professional wrestling, the WWE. Jimmy's going to be in the host chair.
Welcome to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Knows podcasting network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Chris, and Rod, and this is the first time I've ever done this. We are very excited to be here because we had a huge weekend in the WWE. Any Vince McMahon commentary we can talk about. We also have a little pay-per-view called Bad to the Blood. And then we had our first 2-hour Monday Night Raw in the better part of a decade. Oh my goodness. Where do we begin, Rod?
I'll tell you where we begin. All right. Where I'd like to begin is sometimes you get things that you really, really like, but it's too much. It's too much. Okay. And I think what happened after Bad Blood ended up taking over social media, ended up launching a conversation about kayfabe that almost overshadowed an awful lot of what happened at your premium live event, namely possibly the match of the year, which frankly coming out of me means an awful lot because we know that I don't necessarily like Phil and I'm not the biggest Drew McIntyre fan on this podcast. Chris, I'm not going to say I'm not a Drew McIntyre fan, but I'm not the biggest fan on this podcast. And you had a big time return. We hadn't seen Jimmy Uso in months, so that somewhat gets overshadowed. And you had a board member of the TKO Corporation, one of the biggest stars on the planet, one of the biggest WWE legends, The Rock, showing back up and doing some sort of cryptic 3-2-1. And all of that got overshadowed by what happened at the end of the pay-per-view. And Jimmy, I'll let you take it from there, but that's what I've been on my mind, that you just gave us too much, too many things, too many.
Chris, I'm going to get your old man take on this because I think this is a really good topic for you. So we had Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes after the premium live event talking near the buses, and all of a sudden Kevin Owens goes after and attacks Cody Rhodes. Did you like the way they did this, or would you have preferred them do this like an in-ring in front of the cameras?
I don't like searching for my additional WWE content. All right. I wasn't aware of these things until well after the fact, and other people had been talking about it. And then I was like, oh, I need to figure out what happened here. So I don't like, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Yeah, this just in. CM Punk was getting off the L train and fell, and now he is injured again and in a walking boot. Sorry.
What? Okay. Wow. Well, now I know your old man take. You just hate CM Punk, apparently. That's fine.
That's correct.
So, Rod, I love the way they did this because there are no WWE cameras or footage from WWE on this. It's all social media. It's all behind the scenes. And Chris, I think you need to take this into effect here where they want Kevin Owens to be the bad guy. And Kevin Owens cannot be the bad guy if he beats up Cody Rhodes in the middle of the ring because WWE fans like a happening and they cheer a happening. So Kevin Owens is going to get cheered. He's not going to be the bad guy. This way, Rod, Kevin Owens can be the bad guy.
He definitely can. Listen, like I tried to parse my words carefully because the creative choice is genius, right? I mean, it's absolutely genius in the world that we live in, 2024, letting like Fightful Select and all of those guys pass around footage that comes from an account that's not WWE, you know what I mean? And you got the guys doing the commentary in the back. Like, all that stuff's great. My only gripe is, why did we need to waste that after Bad Blood? And again, I guess the answer would be, we don't have much else for Cody, the guy that I give an awful lot of guff to on this podcast. So we're not going to have him be involved in the bloodline anymore, I guess would be my answer. So, Chris, what do you think of that? Do you think that we needed this on top of everything else we already got going on?
I actually kind of think this throws a kink into what I originally thought was going to happen. All right. Because you have 4 members of the new bloodline, I'm going to call them, with Solo. All right. And then you had Cody and Roman. And then I was thinking KO and Orton. And I was thinking, okay, does this mean we have to go to like an elimination chamber type situation with these two groups? And especially when The Rock came out, because this was a question I was going to pose to you. What side is The Rock on right now? Is he with Roman and Cody? Does he still have gripe against Cody? Is he with Solo? Because I think if he teams up with Solo and keeps that final boss type character going, that means makes that side a lot more interesting to me than what they currently are.
So I think you're going to see that eventually. I do. I don't think The Rock is going to be on Roman's side, because I really think they're going to wrestle it at WrestleMania. Maybe even a 3-way. I don't like that as much, though, because I think you can get 2 money matches out of that, where Rock and Cody Rhodes wrestle it, I don't know, the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis, Indiana. Or we have, we have Rock and Roman at Mania. I think that's the way to go, Rod.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the tell to me is the fact that The Rock's name gets mentioned, or he comes out to the crowd, and we still get quite a few boos, right? Because, Jimmy, you just said that whole thing that the WWE crowd loves a happening, and what's more of a happening than them getting to see The Rock, and people are still choosing to boo him almost immediately. So I think they're definitely going to have to keep him bad. So, Chris, my answer would be, when he came down to the ring there, he looked like he was almost mad at everybody. I don't know how much he's going to be like, bellying up to Solo. It seems to me like he's just going to be trying to like run waste on all of them and be like, no, you guys can all say you're the bloodline, but I'm actually the top of the line.
Well, we do know he is the final boss, Rod. All right. But I didn't mean Elimination Chamber. I meant War Games. Don't we have a War Games coming up or something like that?
Oh, for sure.
So like
bloodline fighting somebody at War Games.
So like this is kind of where I saw this going. So this feud with KO and Cody Rhodes then makes what I thought was going to happen probably not going to happen. So I don't know where KO fits into all this madness. But Cody's at least entrenched. I feel Cody's entrenched in this because he has a history with Roman. He's teamed up with Roman, and now you throw The Rock in the middle of it. You don't know where he stands. I think Cody's entrenched in the middle of it.
Okay, Jimmy here. I just landed on this. Okay, my question then is, why did you have to have Cody in this match with Roman then, right? Like, why did this have to be the match? Was it simply just because you needed Cody on this card? Because, you could have had Cody fight somebody else. You could have had him and KO do something. And, like, it seems odd to me that now we're launching into a completely something non-bloodline related, but Cody's jumping point out of it was a bloodline match at Bad Blood. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't get that if we were going to do the KO thing.
You need to remind people how big Cody and Roman are. You need to put them together. You need to just give them a little bit now, so then we know it's going to come back later. That belt, handing the belt back and things like that, obviously was done on purpose. Everyone knows that. You need to tell the storyline, advance the storyline. This is long-term booking, which is something we're not as used to as we should be in the WWE, Rod. That's where.
But Jimmy got outshined though. Jimmy got outshined a little bit, and I'm kind of bummed about that for my boy. I mean, I guess he's never going to be a top of the line guy, but he got to make his big appearance, and then it immediately got overshadowed by, hey, here's The Rock at the top of the steps, and then here's KO and Cody backyards. But shout out to Jimmy Uso. Happy to see him back.
Listen, as far as goons go, there's not too many worse goons out there than Jimmy. He's about the top of that goon list. He's like Henchman 24 for your Venture Brother fans out there.
Speaking about breaking kayfabe, I was watching TikTok the other day, and there's a a TikTok of someone going through a plane. It's like, hey, I'm on this flight with this person, and then it's Solo Sikoa who stands up, gets this old lady's bag, puts it in, is really nice to her and everything. I just thought that was hilarious. I don't know why he didn't, thumb to the neck. I'm not sure why that didn't happen.
Yeah. Come on,
But
Solo.
let's talk about other things that were
Was
overshadowed.
was he wearing the peppers?
No, he was not wearing the peppers.
Are they peppers? Is that what's on that thing? Is it peppers?
It's peppers now. It's that's what we're gonna call it. There's a specific name for it, and we are.
It's
not,
the ulafala. That's what they're always
Yeah.
calling it. That I know, but what is the ulafala? Like Chris could be right. There. It does kind of look like it might be like jalapeno peppers. Like you don't want to eat them because they're high on the Scoville.
Listen, they look like peppers to me, so they are peppers.
Jimmy's furiously
assorted
Googling
styles,
this right
Lay's
now.
necklace, Hawaiian tropical flower. So
Those don't look like flowers.
I'm with you, Chris. I'm so with
Yeah.
you. You calling for investigations all the time. We need an investigation into what the ulafala is. That's what we need.
We need to know what those are around his neck specifically. All right. If we know what those things are due to, I guess, Google, Jimmy, right? Correct? That's what's
there. It's painted or has a varnish on it because if you didn't, we know what would happen. Like every other
Well,
lay
whose
with a natural
decision
flower.
was it to make it look like the Chili's logo then? Who made that call?
Samoans, guys, culture yourselves.
All right, fine.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've been to America.
And they cook with a lot of spice, a la, I'm thinking it's peppers.
And Chris, again, I'm not going
And
to hold
with
you
that,
responsible.
this is the last podcast we're ever. No, yeah, Chris.
It's been a long time since Chris has been to Samoa. I mean, it was the 40s. I can't expect him to remember everything.
That's a valid point. All right. Speaking of being overshadowed, we've been talking about Bad Blood for approximately 10 minutes right now, and we haven't mentioned, probably as Rod said, one of the matches of the year. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre brought back Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell was, and always will be the premier bloodbath match that we have, especially when you hit someone for real with a metal, what is this called? Metal tool chest, if you will, right on the head, 12 staples, blood everywhere. Chris, I know you were scared. Rod said, and we'll get to Rod here in a second, Rod was actually grossed out by that. Chris, how'd you feel?
It's a solid reminder to all of us that, of course, as we know, and you has taught me well, Jimmy, this is not fake. All right.
Correct.
These are real things. These are real injuries. Sometimes I know that gets blurry, but this is the amount of risk and bravery that these guys take when they get into these matches, especially the Hell in a Cell, especially when you see these past matches that they're trying to live up to, these legendary matches, these legendary Hell in a Cell matches. It's a testament to their, I guess, love of wrestling. And this is about as close as ever you'll see me giving CM Punk any type of credit because he deserves it for this match. I can't deny that, unfortunately. Now, let me get back to me as a fan. He got what he deserved. I can't believe he still won.
Yeah. This is a good way to make two people extremely strong. Especially now, this staple thing for McIntyre is a blessing in disguise. It's gonna hurt and it's gonna suck for a long time for him because that just didn't look good. But he is going to come out stronger at the end of this, and that's really what you need, especially if Punk is actually going to take some time off. We'll see with that. Rod, tell me your thoughts on the entire matchup here.
I was, man. I don't know if it's being older or what, but like just the amount of blood that was gushing at times, I was just like, oh my God, this is gross. And like when Punk swung those stairs and hit him right square in the middle of the forehead, and you could instantly see the gash and the blood pouring out of it, I was just like, oh no, this is too much for me. But I want to echo a lot of Chris's sentiments there. Shout out to CM Punk. I mean, the guy's going on 50 or in his 50s. I'm not even entirely sure. And he did that match. You know what I mean? So it's amazing. And I got to shout out Drew McIntyre as well. I think that guy has the strongest back anybody has ever had. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because the two like Alabama slams that he kind of got onto the table after the legs had been ripped off. So he just had to go against the frame which essentially like made a cross on his back. Not to mention the throw into the stairs late in the match after he'd already been beat up anyway. I don't know how that didn't paralyze him. So Drew McIntyre continues to amaze me with because he does the strap matches and the bamboo canes. Like the amount of stuff Drew McIntyre takes to his back is absolutely amazing. But I guess that's the benefits of being 6'8" and 280 pounds and absolutely ripped from stone.
CM Punk's 46th birthday is on October 26th, 1978. Not quite in his mid-50s there, Rod. Either way, still
I gave a range.
Younger,
I gave a range.
lot younger than Chris King. Chris,
true.
where do you see CM Punk going from here? Do you see him doing a lot more of these types of A-level matches, or is he going to kind of go back down to the mid-card?
I mean, I have only seen him wrestle Drew McIntyre, really. And so I have no idea what to expect, except that I expect not to see him for at least another few months. I imagine they'll try to bring him back again for WrestleMania, maybe during the Rumble again next year, and try to work that out. And maybe we'll see him get injured in the Rumble again next year. I don't know, Jimmy.
Dude.
I'm not a fan.
Obviously, holy cow, Rod, you of all people kind of turned the corner for this, maybe that one night only. That's fine. But you had an interesting thought after the match. Actually, I don't even think the match is over yet about CM Punk in the Rumble.
Oh, dude, CM Punk's winning the Rumble. Mark it down, book it right now. CM Punk is winning the Rumble. He's going to be the shot that coming out of the Royal Rumble pointing at WrestleMania. And then we have a lot of different directions we can go with CM Punk in the main event of WrestleMania, right? So we have a lot of different ways we can then finagle the belt on somebody and have Punk take them on, right? It can be finally him getting a shot at Cody Rhodes because they've done nothing but sort of bat their eyes at one another. And we've seen that if you bat your eyes at Cody Rhodes and show him respect and shake his hand and bow down at the altar, that he'll just give you a title match. You don't have to get in a feud with Cody Rhodes. Just respect him and be boring, and he'll give you a title match. So, you know, he could do that. He could finally get it on with Seth Rollins, right? Because they teased us a little bit with that, with Seth coming out into the ring and kind of staring him down and Punk just walking off. But you're right, Jimmy, that I've turned the corner on Punk because all I ever asked was for him to wrestle and for me to see the performer that makes people call him the best in the world. And coming out of that match, if you don't see that CM Punk, like Chris said, has a love in his heart for professional wrestling and is willing to put his body on the line for that, then you're just an absolute hater. And Chris, I know you embrace being a hater and a fan, but you're just an absolute hater if you can't give CM Punk respect out of that match.
He's not wrestling again, so I guess he's hurt. So isn't this what we also predicted would happen, that he would wrestle for a little bit, get hurt, sit for a long time, come back? So,
well, I mean, of course he's not feeling well after being in that Hell in a Cell match and bleeding all over the place, but he's not hurt. It's a storyline, Chris.
The finish also was bogus. Let's just go there. The finish was bogus. If you're going to beat the hell out of each other the way they did for that whole match, he just wraps a chain around his knee, and then that's going to be. I mean, the finish was bogus. I didn't like the chain.
Foreign object.
I didn't like it.
I
didn't like it.
But it's the culmination of everything to end to that. Speaking of culminations, Nia Jackson Bailey was the next match. And let me tell you, a match after a Hell in a Cell is extremely difficult because people were very, very high for it. I will give these two ladies credit. The people stayed with them that whole match. It was one of the more exciting matches from the crowd aspect of the night. And good job on them. There was some stuff that could have been a little smoother in there, a lot smoother in there. I thought the ending was still a little convoluted. It was kind of funny. The Tiffy time, I kind of wanted to go a different way. It was fine, but the match was up and down for me, Rod.
Are we going to go on record and say that match contained possibly the worst Hurricane Rana that has ever been served upon the WWE universe in the history of matches? I mean, that thing wasn't even close.
I want to know whose idea that was. Was it the agent? Was it Nia? Was it Bailey? Was it all of them? It just didn't work. The announcers didn't really know how to call that either, which is never a good sign, Chris.
Yeah, no, let's be honest, when you lose the announcers, you lose a lot of people. It's hard to hide it then. The more you watch wrestling, of course, the more you are susceptible to seeing these flubs, but that was a little bit more than a flub or a slight miscue. I mean, that was something that was obviously not worked on before. And I don't think, from what I've learned from you guys, Nia is not that well versed in the ring to be able to pull something off like that a lot without previous work?
No, she can do one thing, right? They just need to embrace the fact that she's Andre the Giant. You know what I mean? I understand we're in the new era where you need to do, and Jimmy, I'm not making fun of the guy. I'm just pulling him but you need to do Johnny Gargano stuff, right? We're in the new era where people want to see that, right? They want to see you jump and do this and all these different, but Nia Jax needs to just do what Andre did, right? Grab people by the shoulders, beat them into the ring posts. You know what I mean? Like, just be big. That's all you need to do. You've got the sneer down. You've got the voice down. Like, just beat on people in the ring. Stop trying to prove to people you're a good wrestler, because all you're doing is proving to them that you're not a good wrestler because you can't pull these moves off. But Jimmy, I love that you said, do we blame Nia? Do we blame Bayley? Do we blame the booker? Because that's, or the agent, or however it gets referred to, producer. We just don't talk about that enough, right? There's always somebody that's credited with writing that match, and was it their idea? Because it definitely should have been on the cutting room floor.
Speaking of something on the cutting room floor, Rod, Triple H comes out to make an announcement about the Ultimate Galactic Championship for Saudi Arabia. And the belt, I don't have any issues with at all. It's a one-time. No one's going to ever defend it. You just get it. Braun Strowman won the biggest Royal Rumble belt ever. We've never seen that before. But when he said Crown Jewel is coming back, the amount of boos he got for that, he was not even expecting. And I thought that was really funny.
Oh, it was great too, because you could tell they tried to clean it up for the promo then to run the next night, you know what I mean, to try to preview the PLE, and it was like even hard for him to get the booze out of the background of Triple H talking. It was great stuff out of the WWE fans there, because, like, listen, we all love wrestling. Like, before we did our football show, you guys scorned me for saying, how dare I ask for too much football. So, like, we're not going to be mad that they're giving us a PLE, but we just all would kind of prefer they not be in Saudi Arabia. I think that's definitely also true.
It's tough, Chris. $50 million for one show is pretty decent.
Okay, you can't argue with the business aspect of this, all right? But, like, if you tell an American crowd that you're going to have a PLE in a foreign country, chances are that country is getting booed. I don't care if it's Canada. They're probably getting booed.
Yeah, Canada does get booed a lot. Someone who was in the crowd, we saw this before the CM Punk match, Goldberg is back in the WWE fold. We had Gunther come out, and I love this. Gunther's getting so good. He's such a great champion. He comes out, he talks about, hey, I know I mentioned that, Bret Hart, you were my favorite wrestler. I was lying. And then, hey, you want to fight? I've got 3 minutes for you. Gold everywhere. Gold, gold, gold. I really wish these two were going to fight it at Saudi Arabia. But it looks like it is going to be Gunther against Cody Rhodes, champion versus champion, for that ultimate superior championship belt that Gunther is going to win, Rod.
No, I think you're definitely right about that, right? They already sort of gave us the tease when he brought up the fact that he won the King of the Ring, you know what I mean? And Triple H had to put that on him. So, but I do find it odd if we literally paid Goldberg all that money to show. Well, I guess he probably is in the Atlanta area anyway, so they didn't have to do a whole huge travel budget. But to get him there just so Gunther could do an insane promo cut on him would be absolutely awesome, right? The fact that WWE fans don't love Goldberg that much, but he was cool enough to come back just to get cut down on a promo, like, that would be awesome if he doesn't show back up. But come on, you and I both know Goldberg and Gunther are going to get it on somewhere, right? Like a Raw, or maybe they'll, I guess they can't. Maybe they'll even hold it off till that Saturday night main event thing on NBC, Jimmy.
Yeah, so I think what we're going to see is in Saudi Arabia, Gunther's going to go for the win, and he's going to get speared by Goldberg, and then Cody gets the win. And then both Gunther and Cody, neither of them are hurt by this. Gunther and Goldberg can then go one-on-one, whether it's on the first Netflix Raw, that might be huge, or Saturday night main event. So either of those could be big. I can see that happening, to get Goldberg to Saudi Arabia, to get Goldberg to be in a big angle, and then have the blow off later, Chris.
Listen, I am 100% behind seeing more Goldberg, all right, because that gives me all the member berries, all right, from when I used to watch back in the day.
I'm sorry, the member berries?
Yes.
On that note, we're going to go to Liv Morgan against Rhea Ripley, and this didn't feel. I didn't feel it. Didn't feel it, guys. I didn't think that this was. I thought this should have been a bigger moment, bigger event. I think we were tired at this point. I will say, Dom Mysterio once again steps up, doesn't do anything except for fall out of a cage, and scare the hell out of everybody, because that was real until it wasn't, Rod.
Yeah, it really was. I was skeptical of the shark cage. I liked your idea that somehow we were going to feed something out of the shark cage and that might factor into the schmaz, because all of us smelled the schmaz coming. We all kind of felt like Rhea wasn't going to win the title at Bad Blood and that we were going to continue this storyline. And I just got to say it here, man. The other schmazery at the end, I swear to God, I legit forgot Raquel Rodriguez existed. And I feel bad about that, because she is somebody who actually could be an adversary to Rhea. She's believable, right? In the way that Liv Morgan isn't, which, Jimmy, I think is another thing that plagues this match. I love you for trying to give them all of the outs, but it's just, we do not buy Liv. We love Liv, right? Continue doing your Liv thing, but we do not buy Liv and her stature in the ring with Rhea Ripley on any way, shape, or form that she can beat her. And to top it off, the storyline that they are telling leads us to believe that Liv has no chance at beating her because she's always running away from her or attacking her from behind. So I think that plagues you. Adding Raquel Rodriguez gives you an out, but Jimmy, no one's going to care about Raquel Rodriguez, right? I mean, we've done this before. We've been down this road before. As much as I just tried to hype it up there, this ain't happening.
Raquel Rodriguez was good as the monster in NXT. The smiling gimmick never really worked in WWE. And I know she went through some there's some issues and some diseases or something like that she had. So, obviously glad she's back there, but she's going to have to beat Rhea to get anything. And do they really want to beat Rhea, Chris? Is this the time that she dominates a Rhea Ripley? I don't see that.
I'm not smart enough to know what they're going to do with Liv and Rhea. All right. Let's be honest here. All right. I am in this for one thing, because I recognize greatness and genius when I see it. All right. And right now we have a wrestler who cannot get a word out on live TV. Okay. Does not have to say a single word during a wrestling match that he's not involved in, and still steal the show. Okay. We didn't hear a single word from Dom. I didn't, but I couldn't take my eyes away from what was happening with him in that shark cage. I just couldn't. All right. This guy is like a Charlie Chaplin or Buzz Keaton from the silent movie era, where we don't have to hear a word he says, and we're going to watch everything he does and love every minute of it. I'm a Dom fan. I'm 100% behind Dominic Mysterio.
So, Rod, I know the old man thing is a fun gimmick with Chris. Is he literally 84 years old?
He definitely did just quote Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin there. I mean, shout out to those guys. We got Buddy Hackett mentioned earlier in the football show. We are just skewing older and older here
kids,
on the pod,
as they say.
I did say that at one point. I said the kids listening. I tried to explain something for them. So we think we have an amazing age gap listening to this podcast. We are completely delusional.
We did talk about the main event where we had The Rock return and kind of pointed at everybody saying, you're going to go first, you're going to go second, you're going to go third. I'm going to go through all of you.
That's what it was.
I will be the next champion of the family, the bloodline, the everything. So
that's what that was. This is why you're the man, Jimmy. This is why you host the show. This is why you're the expert. This is why I'm getting better and throw out some good theories every once in a while. Like you said, I was real close on the Tiffy time angle. I was real close, right? They just kind of tweaked it a little bit right there at the end, but I was real close on the Tiffy time angle. We all smelled the schmazery out. So, Chris, listen, you keep saying that you're not smart enough to make these calls, but listen, a couple of things that you talked about happening before Bad Blood happened, brother. So you're coming along, all right? I want to build you up, all right? I attack you so often on these podcasts. I want to build you up and say you're doing just fine, my man.
And we are doing just fine. Let's go through a couple quick stories, then we'll get out of here. Monday Night Raw went to 2 hours, fast-paced for sure, a little too fast in some places, so they do need to work on that, although SmackDown is a 2-hour show, so they should be able to get that. Chris, did you think Sami Zayn had any chance at all in beating Gunther for the world title, especially since the posters were already printed and up all over Saudi Arabia with Cody Rhodes against Gunther?
Well, no. I did not know the posters were up in Saudi Arabia before this match, but I still did not think at all that Sami was going to win this match. All right. we are building Gunther up to something I think a little bit spectacular in the next few years, and I can't wait.
Chris, you got to remember, Jimmy wakes up, he checks Al Jazeera. All right, so he was on the fact that his posters were up. No, Al Jazeera is a legitimate news network, Chris. They just happen to be based out of the Middle East. That's not a political commentary whatsoever.
No, but it's like you think Jimmy has a time when he wakes up in the morning with his kids to be able to check
He just said
multiple news outlets.
He just said earlier he's looking at TikTok. I'm sure he bumps over to Al Jazeera every once in a while. Come on, Jim, what's happening with it? Al Jazeera, you check in?
The dog and I have a good 10, 15-minute walk at about 6 in the morning that I can check out all the news sources, okay? Rod, I don't know which one to go to because I know you really like both of these. We had the Seth Rollins promo and Sheamus and Pete Dunne. Let's go Sheamus, Pete Dunne. How about your boy Sheamus and my boy Pete Dunne having good Donnybrook?
Listen, it's like we used to love it when the Brutes were together, right? And then they would go together and they would bash it up with who are they always fighting, Jimmy? Refresh my memory. It was always the Brutes versus Imperium. Yeah, it was Brutes versus Imperium. And we loved those matches, right? They'd have the barroom brawls and those guys would just get after it. So anytime Sheamus is beating on somebody, I am absolutely here for it. And Pete Dunne, Jimmy, I see now why you were so excited about this guy when he first came around, and all of us were like, what do you do? Who's Pete Dunne? Nobody cares about Pete Dunne, Jimmy. He's just Butch who doesn't say anything. And you kept saying, no, the bruiserweight, so much so that I got annoyed by it, thought that you were crazy to manifest it happening ever. And then lo and behold, Pete Dunne is here now, and he's beating people up on NXT. He's fighting on WWE. Like he's an essential cog right now. We are lacking for good villains, and Pete Dunne is filling that role. Shout out to your guy.
Okay, listen, this was a fantastic match, and especially we talked about Drew McIntyre and his strong back. I think we got to give it to Sheamus and his strong back in this match as well. All right, but let's be honest, Rod. You gave this Pete "Don't Call Me Butch" Dunne character a lot of love right there, and he just lost this match to a guy with his hands tied behind his back.
Yeah, but listen, that's not the first time that Sheamus has had his hands tied behind his back like that in zip ties. All right, he's been escorted out many a drinking establishment exactly that way. All right, so honestly, Sheamus is just pulling upon past life experiences there, and you can't blame Pete Dunne for not realizing that past life experiences might help Sheamus defeat him in the end.
I think that's an interesting comment that you made, Chris, because I've heard that other places too. The white noise off the barrels, that would have been a fine ending. That could have been easy. Having Pete Dunne lose that way can go one of two ways, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because I'm worried it's going to go the way you just said it was going to go.
Yeah, it did not. That does not impress me at all. I love the whole match. That's one way that I definitely do not think that. Okay, yeah, you performed, you had good heart, blah blah blah, but at the end, the guy still was able to beat you with his hands tied behind his back. Right? That's not something to brag about.
Rod, how interested are you in a Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed blood feud?
Not very, unfortunately. I'm just going to be honest. Not very. Like when Bronson Reed angle first happened, I was kind of like, okay. But then the fact that Seth was away for a while, I kind of feel like the Braun Strowman Monster versus Monster was just almost the culmination to that Bronson Reed story. And it has very little to do with Seth Rollins because of sort of what you talked about when you asked Chris, did he think there was any chance Sami Zayn was going to beat Gunther for the belt, right? Like we don't honestly think that Bronson Reed is going to beat Seth Rollins in this match. We don't honestly think that he's going to beat Seth Rollins and then like propel into the main event status. I don't think that's happening. So, fine. You got to make this match because of all the tsunamis he gave to Seth Rollins. And I'm never going to be mad at seeing the Visionary, the Revolutionary chopping it up in the squared circle, but I don't care about this match whatsoever. And it bums me out because I want to care about Bronson Reed, but I just don't.
Chris, do you think Bronson Reed's going to win?
Yes, I do. And I think if really, I want to see more of his style of matches. All right. We talked about how some people need to wrestle big, and this is a guy that needs to do that. I mean, we need to see Nia Jax be more like Bronson Reed, really. And I want to see more of that. And I think in order to propel him up this ladder out of or into at least mid-card title contention, he needs to have a feud with somebody like a Seth Rollins or with that type of, history behind them, or like a KO, somebody of that stature. And I think Seth Rollins is that. So you get a 3 to 5 fight back and forth thing with him. I think that could propel him. When I say 5, I don't mean 5 actual matches, but like, behind the scenes type
I was
ruckus.
gonna say, my God, if Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins fight for 5 matches, I'm gonna be like, my God, I'm gonna be even me, number one Seth Rollins fanboy in the world, is gonna be like, what are we doing?
Yeah, but I can see 3.
Ugh.
Six is good.
Jimmy Jam.
And with
No, we got like one thing.
I was gonna go to something, but you're good. Go ahead.
All right, maybe you were gonna go here. All right, but we got to talk about Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and we got to talk about how Finn Balor is basically Chad Gable. All right, I'm sorry. This is my new take.
I was gonna go. And with that, you've been listening. We're not talking about the Damian Priest Finn Balor match.
Nice, of course you were,
It's
but
a sad damn
I'm
time.
sorry.
No, I legitimately was. It's a sad time. This isn't good for podcast silence, but it's the opposite of the Chris King. I don't care. I deeply care. I'm a big Finn Balor fan. He's amazing. And right now, where's he going? Because he cannot continue to feud with the Judgment Day. We got to go somewhere else. I don't care where that is, but we have to get out of here right now.
The only way that this will make any sense to me is if Finn has a self-realization that, okay, I thought what I needed to kick Damian Priest out of the Judgment Day, what I need is to get out of the Judgment Day myself, and he just turns his back on all of them, right? Like that's like, it's not he attacks anybody or double crosses them. He just like leaves and goes off and says, I need to come back serious because I am essentially the Miz. I am essentially Chad Gable. I just get trucked out here as a tag team champion with somebody who's never going to be a big deal someday. I fight on the SmackDown before the PLE. They finally elevate him back to PLE match, like you said, Jimmy, and he loses, just continues to lose. Like, honestly, I said this to you. I think the last time Finn Balor won a singles match was over Edge, and Edge hasn't been in the WWE in a long time.
This is Triple H's WWE, and from what I've learned from you guys, this means factions. And I think if Finn Balor doesn't stay in a faction, he's definitely going to get lost in the shuffle and find his way back into NXT.
Rod. Finn Balor's last singles match win was on June 3rd, 2024 against Dragon Lee. How dare you?
My bad. I forgot about.
But the one before that, Rod, was September 15th of 2023 when he beat AJ Styles with help from Jimmy Uso. It's not looking good. Not looking good at all.
With help from Jimmy Uso, what was going on there?
Who knows? But with that, you've been listening to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the Borgie Knows Podcast Network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Rod, and Chris.
Jimmy Uso, listen, I'm sorry that you got overshadowed at Bad Blood, and I'm sorry we took an unnecessary shot at you sort of there at the end. You're the best, Jimmy Uso. We love you.
Goodbye, net. Yeah.